Thank you for listening to Sassy Optimist with Cindy Chapin. Well, it's June 2nd, the year 2020, and I had to actually look at the calendar. I almost thought it was May. I'm like, oh my goodness, that's so bad. But I'm getting ready to go into my third month. I've been furloughed for 8 weeks. This is going into my ninth week, so this is a Tuesday. And I've been debating lately on, do I continue with doing the podcast? Do I delete it? Do I get off? Obviously, I've made it a choice to go ahead and continue to do this, and I'll just take it as it comes. But anyway, not that you guys needed that narrative. So there's obviously been a lot going on that's impacted everybody in the world as far as the pandemic, coronavirus, being furloughed, losing your job. There's just so many things. It would take a long time, but I don't even need to list it because we're all living it. And then unfortunately this past weekend, with the riots, the protesting that unfortunately has a lot of times turned into riots with George Anthony's horrible death, that it has really sparked. And obviously we've seen this historically a number of times, and they're all extremely tragic. And there's always, a group of people that, we all react differently to everything, to a death, to unrighteousness, and there is a time for anger. And I think the majority of us are very angry with what's going on, is how we're dealing with it. And so I had a conversation with my daughter earlier, and I said, even by itself, when you look back historically at other, like in St. Louis, when that happened, I do remember here in Atlanta that there was some protesting, but it was really, I would be at the mall and people would be laying down, and it was very quiet. And, I know that there were riots, and I know there were people that took advantage of that opportunity to steal things, thinking it, kind of gave them a, pass on that behavior, that they weren't going to be arrested. And it's obviously very unfortunate. So, but I said, you compile that with, what's been going on with this pandemic and with the virus. I think everybody is, I shouldn't say I think, I know everybody is reacting, not everybody, the majority of people, let me clarify that, are reacting very differently than they normally would. People that normally would be very rational aren't rational. And, even for myself, I have really, I'm very, very fortunate that I'm naturally a very optimistic person. I, for the most part, look at things, on the bright side, at all of that. But at the same time, just dealing with everything that's been going on in the furloughed, and just a lot. I really have hit a wall this past week where it was interesting. My daughter, I was very fortunate that a week ago Monday, her and her friend drove here and were able to stay with us. We've been up at our mountain house, during this time, and they were able to stay with us for 4 days, and I just absolutely loved the time. But just like any mother, it's never long enough. And, because of everything that's going on, it's just, I told my husband, I said, not that I don't love you, want to give that disclaimer, but I know that he's a big boy and he can take care of himself. And I know Mandy is an adult woman, very proud of her. She's just continues to amaze me on how much she's matured and how much she's grown and everything. But she's my daughter, and it just, I obviously have a lot of concerns. But they went back on last Saturday morning, and I shared with her, I said, I never had an anxiety attack. I'm very fortunate I don't deal with that. I said, but Saturday, had lots and lots of emotions and was just really having a hard time processing them, and I still am. And I told, my husband and I went on this just short of a 4-mile hike, and we were about a mile into it. He wasn't even aware of it because he was way ahead of me because I was really struggling to breathe. And I just, even now, it's weird how the emotions keep coming up, but I just felt like, oh my goodness, God. I'm like, okay, what's going on? I'm like, I felt like somebody sat on my chest. And I had this thought in my head that I was going to have to, I was going to have to stop hiking. I was going to have to bend over, and I was just going to sob. But luckily I did not. I was able to work through it at that time because for me personally, I start praying, I start singing in my head, just to kind of work through it, because I'm not a person that wants to push it down because it will eventually come up. But I just knew that I needed to try to process it. And I still am. I mean, obviously, just even there, you could tell my voice, but it's a lot for all of us, and it's kind of like we have to give ourselves a little grace and say, you know what, it's okay that we're having these emotions, and it's okay because it's okay that you don't know exactly what to do or how to do it. But one thing has just been the irony of everything that's going on, and just looking at social media, and there's just how everybody's reacting. I actually just clicked on Instagram, and somebody who I don't even know who they are had a post, and she is a white woman saying, I open my Instagram and all the white people are blowing up the Instagram with because today is Blackout Tuesday, as a way of showing your support, or just, just kind of this is weird for everybody. Death is weird. Everything's weird. It's just like, gosh, give people some grace. But she was basically criticizing white people for putting the blackout, and I was like, oh my goodness, how unfortunate. And the other thing is just, it was actually Tyler Perry had a beautiful long post today on I think it was Facebook, pretty sure. Doesn't matter, Facebook or Instagram. That's where I go back and forth. And, it was just really good. He was basically, he was reaching out to everybody, but he was reaching out, and one portion of it he was saying, and I should pull it up because I'm not going to quote him because I'm not quoting him well, but basically to summarize a portion of it, and this is where one of the things I feel is groups of people. So whether you're talking right now about, the death of a black man by a white police officer, which is horrible. There's so many things that's happened to all different cultures and races, and and I am not obviously black. I've never been black. I will never be black. I don't know what it's like to be black. And just like they don't know what it's like to be a white female. I mean, it's just we all have to respect where somebody's at, or even if you're the same, even if there's another white female, I've not lived in her shoes. So it's just like, give them some grace. But basically Tyler Perry was saying, that, a lot of these people that are protesting and they're stealing from Target, and they're burning down businesses, and they're spraying graffiti, and people are getting shot. Or my nephew is a police officer in Ralston, Nebraska, and with everything that's going on in Omaha, my sister-in-law was telling me that when he was out, that, of course they had the full armor on, that, there was somebody who had put urine in a squirt gun, and they were squirting the police officers with urine. And I'm like, these people that are different groups of people that are, saying, don't get angry at us because I'm just going to use myself for an example. Don't get angry at me because I'm a white female. Treat me just like a male. When I'm in the business world, treat me and pay me as, the same as a male, because obviously we know that women typically don't get paid as much as a man in the same exact job with the same exact experience. I mean, it's a given, and not always, but for the majority of it. And so I have the right to say that. But then on the other hand, if I then do something unjust to somebody else, I treat somebody with hate and anger, but I've asked for them to treat me fairly, but I'm not treating others. So like right now, when people are saying all police officers are bad, or all blacks are bad, or all gays are bad, or all white women are bad, or all white men are bad, or all, just keep the list going, all cats are bad, all dogs are bad, all Republicans are bad, and just whatever it is, that's such a false statement. Obviously, we all know that. So it's kind of like, I just beg of people, like, think logically, and we don't need to be so hateful. You don't have to agree with somebody, but you can still have a conversation. And if you really don't agree with them, delete them off of your social media. It's right now we have the freedom of speech. We could easily lose that with everything that's going on. It's one of my concerns, is we are slowly allowing our rights to be chiseled away, and we're just not. But anyway, I think that's enough of my rant. But one of the things too, just for myself, and I really encourage others too, is I know I have been diving really deep in seeking knowledge and wisdom in what's going on with the coronavirus, as far as like the vaccine that they will be coming out with a bunch of other things that are going on. Biblically, I'm also reading an amazing book, The Shinar Directive by Dr. Michael Lake. It's an amazing book, but it's all of this information that I'm diving very deep in to get this knowledge. it's pretty intense. And I know that that's part of the reason on Saturday. And it was just kind of like the final straw for me was, Amanda, obviously rightly so, needing to go back home. She needs to be with her husband. And I have no problem with that. And I would prefer that she go be with him. But it was still, I think for me, that's why emotionally I just, reacted so strongly Saturday. And I've been really struggling. But I realized, I was talking to my husband, I said, it's kind of like a bodybuilder only building their upper body and not building their leg strength. And that's what I've allowed to happen. I have been absorbing so much information, just seeking the truth, making sure that I know as much accurate information as possible so I can base my choices and decisions on accurate, true information. But what I had stopped doing was things of joy, or doing very little of it. And so it's like my legs represent my joy, and my knowledge for the truth is my body's strength. I was way too top heavy, and that's what I need to do. I need to get my joy back. I need to just make sure I have that balance in everything. So I'm still continuing to seek the truth and knowledge, and I'm still reading the book. I'm still, doing all of that, but I've pulled back, and I'm trying to get it more in like a 1-to-2 ratio. So 1 parts of seeking knowledge to 2 parts joy. And I'm not quite there yet, but it's only just been a couple days. So I just really encourage you guys to do that, because the minute we lose joy, that's where I felt like I was starting to get very calloused. And like when I would see things, or I was not having an emotional response. And I know that that's why I've really struggled with having such a strong emotional response the last few days, because I had started shoving it down and stuffing it down. All emotions, anger, sadness, everything. Empathy, sympathy, all of those I had stopped. I was kind of going into survival mode, but unfortunately it brewed back up. So I encourage you guys to do that. So I just challenge you to find your joy. Even for me, I'm still trying to find it, because I know for me, my joy has always come in what I do. I love the hair industry. I absolutely love it. And obviously, just like so many other people, number one, I'm furloughed, so I'm not doing what I love, which is working with hairdressers and training. But even if I do get to go back, it's not going to be the same at all. And I know that the majority of the training will be done at home over Zoom. And that actually for me is like being put in a straitjacket. It's my personality type to sit in front of my laptop on a Zoom call all day, every day. Training it's difficult for me to even process it, but I'm not overthinking it because I don't know. Anyway, I'm rambling, but that's okay. Anybody who actually listens to my podcast knows I ramble. So, well, take care, everybody. And thank you for listening to Sappy Optimist with Cindy Chapin.